Start streaming. Are you sure? Okay. I click
No.
OK every time. I'm not sure why.
And I
However,
say no every time.
I know it's crazy. We are live. What is up,
Oh, we are
guys?
live.
We are live. Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's you press a button and things happen. We are
Yeah,
joined
boy.
this week by not one but two amazing guests. We have the wonderful Paul Stubbington, who hasn't been here in ages because the podcast hasn't been here in ages. How are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, people of the internet. I am here, and I don't know why I am, but I am.
And then we also have the absolutely wonderful and recently doing his own live streaming.
Oh, yeah.
Barging into our market here, mate. You want to back off a bit?
Yeah.
It's Benjamin Abawaji.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Snappy Tech family, for having me back on the show.
It's always a
And
pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. Live streaming has become a thing on my side, So, yeah, you will be seeing the Snappy Tech and the Lover of Tech, aka also known as the Tech and Chill Show Unplugged, maybe doing a possible crossover.
Oh, yes.
Multiple streams at the same time on each other's channel.
That'd be great.
Another collaboration.
I love the sound of that.
Make that happen. Make that happen.
So how have you found... So, I was helping you debug over yesterday. How have you found live streaming in general?
It becomes a little bit of a learning curve when you want it to be of a higher quality because there's more variables to take into account. So that's another thing to consider, but it still doesn't take away the immediacy of it. It's just nice to be able to just click and go.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's more of a granular, more tactile feeling and feedback that you get from the audience that you just can't get from pre-recorded. So that's a lot more refreshing. And yeah, it's been good. It's been very enjoyable, actually.
What I find crazy is that, 10, 15 years ago, it was practically impossible to live stream without having like a massive computer and, some next level video rendering abilities. Nowadays, you pull your phone out of your pocket, these things stream to Facebook Live and Instagram Live like instantly with zero other input. Anyone can live stream now.
Yeah, I have an addiction for Instagram live streams at the minute. I have different variations of a name for each live stream. There is the Tech and Drive session.
Right.
There's the Tech and Walk session I've done before. So yeah, Instagram live streams it's just phenomenal. So to think 10 years ago you would have had to do all of that to still stream in potato quality is beyond me. So
the technology curve is just crazy. And
yeah, man.
I was listening to the After On podcast, and in there they have an episode where they talk about, tech, where it is, where it's going, all that jazz. And it's just some of the stuff that's going on right now is crazy. If you think that having a phone that can take really great photos is good, like just wait until we see whatever the hell's coming next with Magic Leap, who finally announced a product, may I say. After like 5 years, everyone being like, are these guys real? They actually announced a product.
It's I said it's a great time to be alive in tech, and we were discussing it even before we joined the live stream, and I'm having to use my phone to be able to tether and connect, and it's phenomenal because my home broadband is something I can't use to be able to do that. I can't use my home broadband to be able to do that, and just being able to rely on my LTE long-term evolution, aka 4G connection, to be able to do that, it's crazy. And this month alone, and definitely after this live stream, I would have effectively used.
Oh, he's dropped off.
He dropped off and he's talking about it.
Well, something tells me his internet usage. Someone cottoned on and was like, "Yeah, we're cutting that then."
Yeah, something tells me that that figure he was about to say was slightly too high.
Yeah, it was 1 megabyte over his limit, clearly.
I was just thinking that there's I can't remember what it's for, but there's an ad going around at the moment that's it says about, oh, do you remember? I think it's a PPI ad.
Right.
It's like, do you remember the sound of dial-up tone? And I was talking to my mum in the week that it's so weird that at my house I never remembered us having dial-up. We used to have it, but I think it's before I remember anything. But I remember going to my granddad's, and him used to being like, no, you can't go on the internet, we're waiting for a phone call.
Right.
And to me, to think this was like 15 years ago, which is a long time, but to think how far we've come since that. We've come from a day where it was very, very slow internet, that you couldn't use the phone and the internet at the same time. And now we're doing video calls over the internet.
For free, no less.
Yeah, for free. I'm watching the stream on this. I could be doing loads more things while everyone else is on the phone, and it wouldn't even matter. Welcome back.
And he's back
I don't know
again.
what happened. I don't know what happened.
We were just saying, I think it was your IP was like, wait a second. Your ISP even was just like, wait a second. He's using way too much right now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I've got data. I've got 26 gigabytes to burn through, so
Oof.
I'm safe. That's a healthy amount. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Just the level of access. And I think for someone like me, where I've been heavily dependent on my wireless connectivity, I'm very, very excited for the potential of 5G. You know, just because I've been in a very unique situation to heavily rely on my 4G connection, it makes me appreciate how consistently good that connection has been compared to my home broadband. So, wow.
I'm actually, I can see a mobile tower from my window. So luckily my 4G is really good. And I've actually started to rely on it a bit more at this house, because though my 2.5 gigahertz band had decided that it will actually suddenly get really good range, it wasn't before. Suddenly it's fixed itself. Great. However, for the past few weeks, as soon as I walk to a certain parts in my house, I've just suddenly got no Wi-Fi. So it's sort of straight over to the data, draining through that, and actually does sort of remind you how limited Wi-Fi can be. I mean, because my old house was tiny, so there wasn't a point in the house that didn't have Wi-Fi. And now suddenly having a bigger house, it's like, this feels horrible.
This episode of the Sniper Tech podcast is brought to you by Eero, a mesh Wi-Fi network, so you have Wi-Fi everywhere.
I really should have got a fake sponsor for this ad.
You really should have, yeah.
Oh, so actually, fun fact, George, you know about my bookcase door.
Yes.
And I think some of the viewers will as well, because I had been talking about it for a little while. And one of the shelves on my bookcase door, I can actually show you it, is got the Lucashade bottle. Wait, where? Yeah, the Lucashade bottle and the Paulsberg can.
Those fake ads were the pinnacle of the Sniper Tech podcast last year.
Yep.
They were as good as it got, frankly.
And once I'm gonna take, because I also did Huawei 5.0.
Yes.
And the Big Bong Theory, and because I did those over the like the box for each box set, I'm actually going to take the boxes off, leave the DVDs on their own, and put them up there. But I just haven't done that yet.
Oh, that's great.
So that is now my Snappy Tech sponsor shelf.
There we go. On the subject of Huawei, all the Huawei phones.
Huawei.
So we have these two. Currently, apparently Juventus and Napoli are currently playing a game of football. Ugh, sports.
Oh man, Serie A.
Calcio now. Actually, no, it's still Serie A, but FIFA didn't get the rights, did they? That's why they now call it Calcio A. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the reason. Anyway,
I see a notch.
Yeah, you see the notch. It's usually in notch off mode, but if I turn off the notch, right? Check this out. So if I turn off the notch, most apps actually work fine. The only app that it breaks currently is Snapchat.
Instagram as well.
Oh, does it break Instagram?
as well? Yep.
Let me
You do
check.
not want to do Insta stories or Insta Live with a notch.
Stories. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and-
Yeah, I see. It like cuts off the name on the top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so you know, it's mostly okay. Give it a second to realize what's going on. There we are. But they're basically the same.
Yeah, it is actually weirdly close.
I have a thing about this whole notch off mode and notch on mode.
Right.
It seems like the right thing to do, and this is me coming from the devil's advocate kind of perspective and point of view, right? If you're almost doing that, and I've seen Huawei do marketing on this notch where our notch is smaller than theirs, which is like a reverse kind of measuring contest if we want to keep this show as clean as possible.
I was gonna say, do you know who has the smallest notch? Samsung.
No, technically it's essential. Technically, if we're going to be talking about people that actually have notches, you have to qualify to be part of the notch measuring contest. You have to actually have a notch first.
So do you reckon like Samsung going to stick in a 2-pixel wide notch just for the sake of it? Like they just cut out a bit of the screen just for the bands.
Honestly, it just beggars belief. It just beggars belief. Like my thing in that is, it is almost like you don't believe that the notch being there is a good thing enough to fully commit. So that's the angle I come from. That then why did you put it there in the first place? Because you have an off mode. You shouldn't have just put it there. It would have actually just behaved better for the phone software and the look of the phone.
Yeah.
So fine, great. I can have a notch off mode. Fine, I have an OLED panel. The blacks will pretty much blend in as good as it blends in. Great. But then at the same time, if you're doing that and then your limited edition one doesn't have a notch, does that not tell me that you literally lack imagination and you just want to copy the next person?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like I really appreciate the notch off mode because I feel like if it didn't have a notch off mode, I'd have downloaded an app that does the exact same thing. Right?
Oh yeah.
I could, and you know, from Huawei's point of view, I guarantee you it's like 2 minutes of like some programmer was like, oh, let's add this as well, and it took him 20 minutes to mock it up and make it work. So it's not like it was a huge developmental or at least I hope it wasn't. I'd be slightly concerned if they spent months on how they'd perfect the hide notch setting.
Yeah, I'd be slightly concerned about their Android skin if that took them months.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but it's a good thing to have. It is. It's just I'm just playing the devil's advocate of reverse psychology, where you kind of don't have faith in a notch, do you? If you're going to be putting that mode there, that's all. It's like it almost makes me kind of appreciate Apple's approach of embrace the notch.
Yeah.
If we're gonna put it there, we're gonna make sure you guys embrace it on a granular level. That's including software development as well. You know, we're not gonna be half-hearted about it. We're gonna go balls in deep, mind my language, and yeah, we're gonna commit to the notch. We're not gonna give you a reverse way, because if we believed in that, we wouldn't have put it there in the first place. We generally put it there because it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, and we had Greg Morris on a couple of weeks ago, and he said the exact same thing, where he almost likes Samsung more in the sense that they didn't go for the notch, and then so they at least are doing their own thing, and then everyone who is doing the notch, and if you're gonna copy Apple, own up to it, and if you're gonna go for that notch, then embrace the notch, as you said, right?
Yeah.
You can't go for this kind of half-hearted, we are going to have a notch, but you can kind of hide it if you want to.
That's even without tuning into the show. That's where I'm coming from. The reason why I say I'm coming from that is, what people don't realize is before the 18.5:9 aspect ratio display layout and the whole Infinity All display, let's be honest, Samsung were doing their own thing anyway. Their unique selling point for their screen design is the curved edges.
Mm-hmm.
It's whether how useful the curved edge is or not is besides the point. It's a unique look to their product, right?
Yeah.
So it almost has the same kind of like drawbacks to the Notch where you complain about touch sensitivity, accidental touches. Ergonomically, it maybe not be as friendly to hold, but they've chugged away at it from the Note 4 Edge up until now to have pretty much almost perfected that design, right? That is their unique selling point for how they make their display, but yet it doesn't necessarily functionally deter away from the viewing experience too much. Yes, maybe the early ones like the dual edge from the S6 Edge and S6 Edge Plus cause a lot more screen distortion than preferred, but less people complained about that because you still got an all-screen experience.
Yeah.
Right? Compared to something actually chopping away your phone and messing up with how the software behaved.
Yeah, see, I've of course not lived with the S6 or the S7, so I don't know about the earlier days of it. However, with the S8 Plus that I have, I really do like the curved edges, because I think that even though there is actually a substantial gap between the side of the phone and the edge of the screen, you just don't notice that as you're using it. It makes it so much nicer to watch things on, and I do watch a lot of things on my iPhone. So it really does make that experience better. And the only thing that would make it better is if they put a fucking second speaker on there.
Well, that's what S9 Plus has, and literally the dual speakers is literally like from zero to hero. The dual speakers on the S9 and especially the S9 Plus, it is that damn good.
But is it as good as the Razer phone?
No.
No. I don't think you can beat that. No, I'm still amazed by the Dolby Atmos in that phone, because to put two stereo speakers, have them so close together, and somehow get such a good Atmos effect from it.
Yeah, no, the Razer phone is not part of the competition. It sits there by itself, laughing at the peasants trying.
You cannot just diss a phone that much by comparing it to the Razer phone, because it's just not fair.
You don't compare. The Razer phone doesn't get compared for speaker quality. It's just not. You don't do that. It's not a fair comparison. So we never talk about it. It's that good. It doesn't need to be talked about.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, you can't really battle for speaker quality with a phone that has the entire chin and the inside of the phone as a speaker grill.
Yeah.
And again, Razer did that thing where they said they could have dropped the bezel, but they wanted the sound. They wanted it to be for gamers, and gamers don't care about that that having a tiny bezel. They want that substantial sound.
No, but you see, what you're saying is owning your design. You're owning it. They owned the top and bottom bezel. They owned it. They said, if we're gonna do it, we're not gonna be half-hearted about it. We're gonna own it. We're not gonna put small little sleeved cutouts. We're going to put a fat off chin and bottom to make sure it's all speaker. We're going to own this design, right? To the point where people may say it's reminiscent to a Sony Xperia phone, but actually it's still unique to them because they owned the design. You know, it wasn't something that they were unsure of what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They went in for it, you know, so there's that too.
Yeah, because I think it was Huawei, and I don't know whether to like them, but I think it's more of a dislike them thing, where I think it was them that said about we thought about doing the notch a couple of years ago.
That's why.
But we didn't think we'd get away with it. And then of course Apple did it, and suddenly they're like, if Apple can do it, then other people can too. Like, they've kind of desensitized the market, and I kind of like them for not taking the risk to piss everyone off. However, I don't like them for having the idea and just not like owning it. And if you're gonna fuck up, just own the fuck up. And
that's it.
A lot of fuck ups actually turn out to be better than their competition. I mean,
just like losing the headphone jack, right, guys? That's great.
That is
still the bane of my life, honestly.
So glad that Samsung kept the headphone jack.
OnePlus are keeping it as well, aren't they? I think the renders that leaked out are.
Credit to them.
Take it away for the 5.
They did. They took it away for the 5T, and I think they're bringing it back. I think they took it away for 5T.
No, I'm pretty sure they did, because I think they got a load of slack for it. So
No, they didn't. They didn't. They still kept it.
Did they? Oh,
yeah.
or was it Pixel that?
It was
The
Pixel.
Pixel dropped it as well.
Dear
Slack
Lord.
for it.
The Pixel.
Yeah. You got one.
Dear Lord.
Yes.
Dear Lord. And that's the thing. That's the thing of owning it, right? This is why I always refer back to crazy stuff companies like. I give Samsung a lot of slack. I do, and they deserve the slack that they did. Not slack. I give them a lot of hard time, and they deserve that a lot of hard time because they're a big company, they're a big OEM. You're expecting a lot from them, but at the end of the day, my thing is, products like the Note are testament to. It seems like a dumb idea, but we'll rather do it, knowing that we risk doing a dumb idea, and it didn't pay off, or it actually paid off to influence how other people design their phones, even if it means that they're still going to find a way to make it unique to themselves. The iPhone 6 Plus was testament to that. The iPhone 6 Plus was testament to that. It was testament to the fact that we can't actually ignore that people want bigger phones. So even our smaller phone needs to be a bigger phone, you know. So it's all those things. And when I'm seeing this notch copycat trend going, I'm more annoyed not just at the copycatting, but you can tell that it's a rush job. That's what's annoying me. You can tell it's a rush. You can tell that it almost makes me appreciate the notch and understand the reason why there's a notch on my iPhone 10 more now, right? To the point where I give Apple less headache, or I don't bash them as much having a notch, because it's how they've copycatted Apple has made me understand their approach a lot better, which I don't want to do. I don't want to give Apple less of a hard time about this, but yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah,
because I'm starting to see that their thought process in doing that was a lot more thorough than what these other guys are doing.
Is part of that though the fact that Android are bringing in notch support natively? So the fact that if you are Huawei and you spend like 3 months working on proper integration, and then the next version of Android it has it built in anyway, then you've just wasted 3 months of development time.
Yeah, true. You're not wrong. And again, this is perfect indication of any person that's asked me what is going to happen with the Pixel 3. I'm like, the Pixel 3 will have a dual camera and a notch. Mm-hmm. If there's 2 features you want to know, anything that the new version of Android will support, the new phone will support, because it needs to be the showcase phone to demonstrate what the software can do.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like Google are a step behind and they play a year catch up. First year, we don't need OIS in our camera. It's not something we need. Next year, they have OIS.
And some pretty damn baller EIS, should I add?
Yeah. But you see what I mean? It's like what they feel they don't need, the year after they will add it playing catch up. You know, so Android P, aka Peppermint, or whatever it's going to be called, will definitely pumpkin pie. Will definitely have a dual. It will have a dual camera and it will have a notch. And as impressive as the Pixel 2 has been having it, I still find it a very boring phone. I don't see any difference from the 2013 Nexus 5, which in some cases had a bit more features than this, i.e. wireless charging and a headphone jack.
Yep.
This is no different apart from having a spectacularly good camera for photography, and specifically for photography. And it's good as a point and shoot, but it lacks so much in terms of versatility. It is not a versatile camera.
Yeah,
we have someone in chat, by the way. The LG G7 having a notch was a stupid idea. I don't think it was needed. So has it actually been announced now, the G7? Because no. Yeah, it's still rumors, isn't it?
It is, but
like they've all the major guys have all got their invite for the 2nd of May, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, May the 2nd, I think.
Yeah, and then everything is leaked, and if you look at like, there's a leaked because they were. It's said that it's thought they were showing it off at Mobile World Congress earlier this year, behind closed doors, and so there's a leaked image, and the leaked image looks just like an iPhone 10 running running Android. Like it is. Let me show the viewers here. Like,
well, there's some saying that it's going to have a Google Assistant dedicated button on the ThinQ.
Yeah. Yep. So
it's better than Bixby, but.
Well, you see, I don't know. I think that whole, and I had this discussion before, the only saving grace of where Google gets less of a hard time about their digital assistant that they did on the Pixel is they've done nothing different to what Samsung did, because you can't remap the squeeze feature to something else. You could do on the HTC 11, but you can't do that on here. So you're dedicated to this. The only thing that they did right was they allowed you to disable the squeeze feature from the get-go, 1. 2, because people are more akin and are more accustomed to how good Google Assistant is in the things that it does, people are kind of more happy to deal with Google Assistant as the assistant to only be able to map the squeeze feature to, right? Because and it was one of the big YouTubers that said this and tweeted it, that it's kind of funny how when HTC brought out the squeeze feature, them bringing out the squeeze feature, they allowed you to map it to whatever you liked. It was seen as a gimmick. But yet when Google bring out the squeeze feature, but yet you can only map it to the Google Assistant, it seemed like a very nice thing to have. How convenient is that?
Yeah, I think
so. I'm just twisting it to kind of make you see it differently. That because Bixby is an unknown and unproven and untested platform, which is still less than a year old, right? It is seen as a bad assistant. And I'm not saying it's a great assistant. My goodness, it's slow, it's clunky as a search engine, right? And also contextual conversations.
Yeah,
it's not great.
Yeah, it's terrible for that.
It is terrible.
It does have features that I do like, though. I don't hate Bixby. I hate that it's forced upon me slightly, having the dedicated button. I was lucky enough that it could be disabled by the time I actually got the 8 Plus. But I do think certain things like I can pick up my phone now and say, turn the flashlight on.
Yep.
And it's typical. It's not going to work now, is it? It's going to be super slow. And yeah, it looks like there's a connection problem. Let's try again. There is definitely internet. And I think actually that sums up the problem with Bixby. Its voice recognition isn't great. Its speed isn't great. Sometimes I can do it. I can pick my phone up straight away, flashlight on. And sometimes it'll do it straight away. Like that. That wasn't too bad. And when I first got it, I actually used to do that because it was nice and quick. However, it just too clunky now. It's just easier to swipe down and turn flashlight on myself.
I think there are 2 reasons that the squeeze feature was better received than the Bixby button. 2 core reasons, at least. One of them was, as you mentioned, Paul, the fact that you could disable it, right? When the Bixby button first launched, there was no way to disable it.
Nothing. That was a big mistake.
Yeah.
That was a big mistake. If you're not going to allow to remap, allow people to turn it off completely.
But the second thing is, the Bixby button is a physical button. Like, if you turn off the squeeze feature, then it's almost like it was never there. Turning off the button, you now have this random button that does nothing on the phone.
Nothing. True.
Yeah, and it does get in the way. That's the thing. Like I have the button so that I can still use it slightly. I got it slightly set up so I'm not using Bixby quite in its full potential. However, it does get in the way. I'm used to it being there. I know it's there. I know where the buttons are. I still press that occasionally rather than the power button. I still press that occasionally rather than the volume down button. Or just as I'm standing or sitting there with the phone in my hand, I might accidentally grip the phone too hard and catch that button.
Yeah.
And it is annoying having that there. And I know there must be slips with the squeeze as well, but it's just that much more irritating.
No. That I don't disagree with. Again, touching onto that point, not being able to disable the button for more than half a year is a big mistake.
For the first week, maybe first month, maybe as a month to make sure people do actually try it.
Yeah.
However, it's something that should have shipped with the phone, and maybe as a marketing thing to make sure people try it. As I say, it's that could be a good thing on Samsung's behalf. So people don't just immediately go back to Google Assistant. However, for half a year,
it was terrible.
The phone was late anyway. They had plenty of time to do the software for it.
Yeah. And let's also remember it being announced on the 23rd of March 2017, and then coming out the 28th of April 2017, right? Bixby Voice officially got launched on the 22nd of August, which was a day before the Note 8 announcement.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're putting it was actually more than half a year before you could actually disable the Bixby button. That was the biggest mistake. And again, this is the genius of engineering with the squeeze feature, again, that it's basically an invisible haptic feedback button in effect, right? Which allows you to have a cleaner design phone and not have a button that's going to get in the way when it's disabled, which is great. Which is what I loved about the HTC U11, but at the same time, that has only been the saving grace of the Pixels implementation, because again, I criticized it for why are people not saying that it's not a good thing to just keep it to the Google Assistant. The Assistant is great. Don't get me wrong, the Assistant is great because it's a digital interface or an assistant that has been there for half a year or half a decade or more. Right. So in terms of speed, refinement, responsiveness, voice recognition, contextual, understanding context of what's Barack Obama's age, who is he married to, who's the first daughter, that contextual understanding has been programmed for over a period of time. Right. But again, where I still feel like Bixby has potential is if they can sort out the dumb clunkiness, one, and two, actually spend time to educate people how to use it, because no one knows how to use it because they've not spent time to educate anyone how to use it, right? On a hands-free tactile level, it can control your phone like no other assistant can, period. Like you can tell Bixby to swipe left on your home screen and it will do it.
Yeah.
Right? You can tell it to send a message with a specific text, letter for letter, to that person, and it will do it. You can create shortcut macros of every long command that you've done. It will save it, and you can literally just say, "Hi, George," and whatever you've pre-programmed, it will do it for you. It will be slow and clunky as hell, but it would have done it perfectly in a hands-free format. None of the other assistants can do that, but yet there is no point if you're not going to market it properly. You're not going to be able to sort out the clunkiness of being able to recognize your voice and it being streamlined physically to the design of the phone, i.e. the button, and also to how the software responds to it. That's where I think they just don't really do a good job of getting these kind of things out, you know. So
I think what would have been good for them is to spend a little bit more time before they forced it on people, because then people would have known about Bixby. They can realize what great things Bixby can do. And I mean, it was I can't remember, was it released at the same time as the S8? Because I think the S7 did get it, didn't it?
The S7. The S7.
Oh no, you got it because you have the S8 ROM, didn't you?
Yeah, I had it because I had downloaded the ROM.
The
but no, it might not have ever gotten it, as far as I'm aware.
I think they should.
The one that got it was the Note Fan Edition. The rebranding of the S7 got Bixby.
The Note 7, not the S7.
Yeah, the Note 7. But I think if they spend a little bit more time, let the word get out there, get some people, some early adopters kind of thing, using it so they can perfect the software a little bit, and then with the S9 bring the Bixby button, I think people still wouldn't have liked the Bixby button as much as Samsung would hope. However, it would have been a lot more well received.
The reason why I agree is I'm going to back you up on that one. So think about when Google Now first got announced and launched. That was at the Google I/O conference when Hugo Barral was still part of Google. This was way back in 2013, 2012. This is when the Nexus 7 tablets were really, really popular then. They spent with that whole Jelly Bean, Android Jelly Bean, with the whole Project Butter program that they launched in terms of fluidity and how it responds and everything. They spent a whole keynote demonstrating what Google Now was about. They spent a whole keynote. They spent that time for them to demonstrate as many different scenarios of what this is about in terms of voice recognition, how cards worked, how it integrates with the Google account, how it learns your habits. They spent an educational period of time on a dedicated keynote to the point where you had other people and other publications writing articles about it. You had big YouTubers doing articles about it, the roundups. Can you imagine that time that they took just for a developer preview of Android before it came out on the next Nexus device? Then this is exactly what you mean about spending that time waiting for it to develop, waiting for coverage to happen on it. It's all an educational piece where when it gets to the new device that comes out, you're going to be like, oh, wow, now I'm ready to finally try it myself because I've been seeing it for so long. It doesn't feel necessarily forced upon me. This is what I mean about that's what Samsung doesn't do well. That hurts them every single time. And it's if they don't find a way to break out this cycle, Bixby will be truly dead, even though I think that assistant has a great potential to basically do stuff that the other assistants have just missed an opportunity for a long period of time. So you're not wrong.
Yeah, I think with Samsung as well, the fact that it came out with the S8, as soon as everyone were putting out their S8 reviews, they were saying, we don't like Bixby, we hate the Bixby button, we hate how we cannot turn it off or remap it, mainly the turn it off thing. And so straight from the get-go, everyone was saying, I hate Bixby. And now for Bixby, why the fuck are you now popping up? Really?
It is. I just want to point out that has never worked once when he's actually wanted it.
Wanted it.
Yeah.
It's the clunkiness that it randomly pops up.
That's what I mean. This is the clunkiness. But my point is, as a human being, forget being a tech YouTuber or whatever. As a human being, how are you supposed to like something that you weren't given no precedent to before?
Yeah, and when all of the people that are tech people that do learn these things, that do understand how they work, dislike it. Because if the people that understand how it works dislike it, then how the hell are you meant to like it? It's
exactly.
Yeah,
I had a friend, even just to add that, I had a friend that basically said, you know, doing their own playlist on their phone, you know, for one of their aunties and stuff, she finds it a pain. Ever since I got a Google Home Mini, right, because she's been seeing all the adverts and all the stuff about the Google Home Mini, she talks to the Home Mini like it's her friend.
Yeah.
Do you see it? It's like, it's to her, it's like to him, it's like, I don't get how that is. But I'm like, that's just because Google has been educating customers and people about their platform for so long that you will see it so much where you just want to try it, right? Because they're giving you that room to know it.
And the whole idea of showing people, educating people, letting people come to the conclusion that they want it themselves because they know enough about it to use it. Like my mum, I've had Alexa since Christmas 2016, I think it is. And the day after the Alexa turned up, I had Philips Hue turn up as well. And she refuses to use the light. So a few times she's tried to use it, but just forgets what to say. But a few months ago, she started saying to me, actually, you know what? I fancy getting an Alexa. I can use it to play music and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, like you've seen that it's actually useful. You've seen that it's not just a thing that you buy, you ask it to tell you a few jokes, then forget it's there. It does get good use.
Can I just request that you stop using the A word?
It's not set off my Alexa yet.
I'm now gonna have to.
Still not done it.
I have to now go back in post and like beep those all out, and it's all your fault.
I just realised what you meant.
Because I'm gonna have to go back and post. And I'm gonna, God damn it, Paul.
It shouldn't set it off though, because it's not set mine off yet. Because it's realised that the context is not right to go off. So hopefully it should do it for everyone else's.
Well, when I start getting the email barrages of Georgia keeps setting up for my Google Home, my Amazon Echo, I'd be slightly concerned if it's like setting off your Google Home.
Wait. George, just okay, Google.
Oh, for God's sake!
Even set mine off. Hey Siri.
Well, we're at it now. So hey Siri.
I won't even bother with Bixby. Are you gonna set Bixby off?
Let me just put down a couple of markers at this point here, so I know to. God damn it!
That is funnily hilarious.
If you're listening to the recorded version of this, the audio only, just so you know, I have reversed the audio. Hopefully, I reversed the audio for those parts. If you want to hear the unedited part of it, just go into YouTube and skip to the same point because they're more or less time synced, and you can hear it and see. Email me with your complaints as to how many devices we just set off.
Wait. Guys, if you want to listen to that particular part, just say, "Okay, Google, take me to the Snappy Tech channel," and let's see if it does. Is Google going to do it? It's brought up the Snappy Tech trailer. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ask for the Snappy Tech podcast, it will also bring that up. Fun fact: it's available on like Siri as well. So if you ask for it on any
Snappy Tech podcast, if I said Snap Attack.
If you say that is great. If you say play Snappy Tech podcast, it will play the latest episode for you.
Play Snappy Tech podcast.
Sure, playing the latest episode of Snappy Tech podcast. I hate to be the one defending Facebook.
Hey, that's us. Wait for it.
Live. What is up, guys? It is.
Hey, podcast session.
Love it. I just, you know, I've just come to that conclusion that at times it's not necessarily the best product that wins it out. It's the one that people are more aware of, and because of the awareness and the education around how that product is well marketed, it ends up being the more popular and more sought after product.
And it's partially why Apple's so popular, because you can ask anyone, how do you do this?
They are polarizing. They are. I just managed to get, you know, the Gear Icon X truly wireless earbuds in house, so I'm using these, and I got AirPods for myself first, and I tried to use them, but they didn't work out for me because the design, that one size fits all design, was rubbish for my ears. It was so painful in my ears, and it just wouldn't stay in, right? I think arguably these are probably, from a big company, the best truly wireless earbuds that you can get. I think these are arguably the best for the fact that it's got 4 gigabytes of internal storage. Whether you're going to use that or not, it's up to you. You've got ambient noise that you can turn up so you can still hear your surroundings. And it's got so much going for it. And then on top of that, it's got an in-ear design, which I love in-ear because I know that I can adapt it to my ears, have different tips, have different wingtips. And for the fact that when it's on, it's flushed, right? So it's so discreet that you don't look like a possible bellend with...
No, wait, no, hang on. I am yet to see someone wearing AirPods and not laugh at them.
Exactly.
It is yet to happen.
I saw someone the other day and it's...
But my point is, we say this, right? With all these good selling points, I can every single day when I leave my house count 10 people with AirPods, and I've still not seen anyone with these where when I was wearing them, I had 2 people come up to me and they were amazed that how comes I don't know about this? Because Samsung's marketing, Samsung's education, even with how big they are, it's still not good. It's still not good enough.
I think part of it is also in terms of the Gear Icon X. I'm not sure if they've released like a refreshed version, but whatever.
That's a refresh. The 2018 is the second generation.
Okay. Yeah,
So
because
can you imagine?
Yeah,
first-
The fact that let's even pause there, right?
'Cause-
The fact that even yourself you're unsure of them doing a refresh is a problem.
yeah,
I saw
because
the 2018 mark and I started going, I don't remember them refreshing this. Is it just
There
one of
we
those
go.
things that I've missed?
because
There we
I
go.
do miss a lot of things.
the
There we go.
originals were so terrible. The previous ones they were plagued with connection issues. They sounded
Oh,
horrible. They lasted like an hour and a half,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, an hour and a half. Oh, that's on a good day. 45 minutes, mate.
Yeah, no,
an
they
hour and a
were.
half. You've had it good.
Yeah.
You know, but my point is, in this discussion now, the fact that both of you had to actually question yourself of was there lies the problem.
Yeah,
There lies the problem. They've
And we're
lost
meant to
already.
be the tech people. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
George even more than me. I know quite a lot of things in the tech market, but George spends his entire day like flicking through Reddit, don't you? Or
yeah,
it's,
But my point is that also comes back to that underlying problem. You see, it's a big problem. So although this has everything that wipes the floor of the AirPods, you will, and I say it to the core, you will not see anyone with these on the street. I guarantee you.
yeah,
It'll go through. It's gonna go through a whole year cycle. They'll probably do a 2019 version come IFA in Berlin, because that's when they tend to refresh their wearable devices, you know.
yeah.
And no one will still know. They will still feel like you see them for the first time. Oh, is that Samsung's version of AirPods finally? No, actually, it's their third generation, and AirPods 2 still haven't come out.
see, because the Samsung, like the Gear, their smartwatch, that was out before the Apple Watch, wasn't
That's
it?
the Gear
yeah.
S. Yeah,
The-
And
yeah.
I will say the Gear S3 better than the Apple Watch still.
Yeah,
without a
Luke
doubt.
has it. My friend Luke has
yeah.
it, and he says it's a really good watch.
Gears 3 and the Sport. The Sport is the newer one.
If you say to show someone one of those, they'll be like, "Is that the Apple Watch?" Even though it's completely different shape. If you said, Google have their own version of the Apple Watch, they'll be like, "Really?" It's like this has been out longer than the Apple Watch. This was out before. Whereas with the with Samsung's version of the AirPods, that was out after, wasn't it? Slightly, I think.
I think
No,
no. It was
before.
originally
First
originally
generation-
before.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
'cause the first
generation
one was
iPhone
for the
X
7,
was
wasn't it?
before.
Yeah.
it was
yeah,
before.
so it would have been 6 months before.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was a good amount
So-
before, and this is exactly what I mean about that awareness, not just brand awareness, because people are aware of Samsung as a brand. Samsung
Yeah.
is a household brand, digital appliances, TV, and even in some cases sound systems. So it's not the excuse of they are not brand aware. No,
Yeah.
as a brand, they are equally or in some ways more polarizing. It's just funny how when it comes to education and marketing, which ties into 2 in 1, they are just still, to me, a lot better than where they were, right? But it's still shocking.
Yeah,
It's
their priorities are fully on their phone. And if you compare Apple marketing and Samsung marketing, the only Samsung marketing I'll ever see, the occasional TV, but that is very like 1 in 200. But it's always about the phones. Whereas I've seen a Apple advert going around on YouTube at the moment, which is to do with the pencil. It's like this has been out for ages, and you're still doing marketing for it, still trying to get people to use it. And it's like, yeah, Samsung, I don't like Apple, but take a page from their book, please. It's
Oh, mate, for the life of me, man, for the life of me, it's not to undermine the importance of making sure that you make amazing products. It's not to undermine that problem, right? But for all the criticism that would give Apple for making subpar products that are ripoffs to the end user, the end user still ends up buying it, because when you stick the equivalent competition in front of them, even if the equivalent competition is 2 times, 3 times, or 5 times better, they do not know the end use, they do not know the equivalent competition at all in any way, shape, or form to feel confident unless someone really hammers away at them. And even then, that feeling of being humanly pressured into something that isn't right to their gut feeling, they will not pull the trigger and buy the competition's product. They're still going to buy that product from Apple because of the gut feeling and also that familiarity of knowing that they've known that product a bit more. They end up still pulling the trigger, you know? So it's that, sometimes you have to say that the whole Apple sheep thing does exist. But at the same time, do you blame someone that is better educated with a product and knowing they can buy that because they have better education on that product compared to an alternative product that is a lot better, but they have no education or familiarity with it to have confidence to buy it?
And that's the thing. If you see a product by a brand you're familiar with, you know, like big companies, whether you think they're bad or not, you just seem to trust them just because you know them. Samsung has enough knowledge like throughout the world that people know who Samsung are. If they put a product in front of enough people so that people knew the product was a thing, people would buy it because they trust Samsung because they are such a big company. But they don't put it in front of enough people.
And for the fact that we can miss such amazing products like this, right?
I know. See, I know how good Samsung earphones can be, because I mean, of course, since because just before they released the S8, they bought AKG, didn't they?
Yes.
Because they actually included that pair of headphones in the box, which were decent earphones for included earphones. But before that, I actually had a pair of Samsung's own like Level branded noise cancelling earphones, and they were really good. Between the active noise cancelling and the listening feature, like the one where it gives you your surrounding audio as well, so you can hear what's going on around you, they were really good. And because I got them on a lightning deal on Amazon, it cost me £18. I think they're now like £35, and I would actually pay that again because they were really good. But most people, I didn't even realize Samsung actually made their own earphones more than what came with a phone at the time. And this was about 2 years ago, I'd say. And still not changed. If I said, I have a Samsung earphones, they're really good, they'd be like, what? Like, do you mean the ones that come with a phone? I'm like, no, they don't. Like, that's it's not that.
This is where for them, as a big company like that, and for how high they are at the top of their game, it just baffles me how their marketing team can spend more time doing parodies and ripping the other competition. You realize that other competition doesn't do that. You're going to be, and I have to admit, that is more because Samsung USA are very savage. But that whole taking the mick out of Apple with the notch, the guy that had the haircut notch, it was amazing. It was funny. The production value was awesome. It had a bit of a nostalgia to it. It was beautifully done. But it almost makes me sad to the point where you guys spend all that money to do that, but yet you still miss the point. You still miss the mark.
As you say, they've got
the mark.
They've got the power. And it is at the point where Samsung are one of those brand versus product thing where they're synonymous, like vacuum cleaner and Hoover and things like that. If you say to someone Android, they think Samsung.
Thank you.
And that's the thing. I've said like the amount of times when I used to have my Nexus phone, they'd be like, "Oh, is that a Samsung?" No matter the Android phone, they just see it's Android. Is that Samsung? And so they have that power there.
It's not even that they see it's Android. It's they see it's not Apple. I think that's an important distinction to me. It's not like they're going, oh, look, it's Android. They're going, oh, look, it's not Apple. What is this?
There we go. And it's a big educational piece to other companies that want to break the mold, other companies that want to sustain where they are, because that's one thing that LG doesn't do very well. And that's one thing that it's secretly made OnePlus such a polarizing company, because they've taken that leap. they've taken that same lesson from what Apple do, and they're now catapulting into this higher price range of devices, because I feel like that's what they're going to do. They've come to the point where that snowball effect has happened right now, where they're catapulting their devices into a higher category, meaning that they're going to be able to spread their devices cross-channel, cross-network, and they're going to start building that same kind of ecosystem around bit by bit. I can see that happening with OnePlus now. I can see that happening with them. You know, they've been able to take that same emotional marketing and bring it into making sure that whatever they had as a small company, they've been able to spiral it to that point where they are more relevant than well-established companies like LG and Sony. OnePlus are more relevant than them, and it shouldn't be the case, because OnePlus, yes, under the fact that they are with Oppo and under BBK Electronics, have some form of backing, but there is also some form of lower down restriction that they've been given to work with as a smaller sub-brand company.
And originally, part of the reason that made them so cheap is because they didn't advertise. They just used the power of YouTubers and influencers.
And invites.
Invites as well.
The hype. They used the power of that. And
actually, really
now
quickly,
they're doing ads.
Before I rip on their invite system, I do want to say I did make £30 off it. So.
Oh. Mate, I agreed with the invite system. Do you know why I agreed with the invite system? It created a level of desire and also exclusivity that I didn't realize until when I criticized it until I saw someone with a OnePlus One, and I lost it. I went crazy. I was like, wow, and it brought me back to the early days of when honestly, that phone, whenever I saw that phone, I completely lost my mind, because I thought, how have you got that phone? Do you know how it made me feel like? It made me feel like the iPhone when it first came out and it was only exclusive to O2.
Yeah.
And you knew damn well if someone had that phone, that wasn't exclusive. It had that feeling. And I realized that I've never felt that emotionally attached to a phone before until the original iPhone. That is amazing. That in itself, I felt like they took something that was a frustrating experience and actually captured people's attention and created fans for the product and the brand.
I think it was one of those situations of no publicity is bad publicity as well, because a lot of people were complaining about the fact that I can't get this amazing phone because it's invitation only. But the thing is, they were saying how great of a phone it looked. So everyone was suddenly hearing about it without anyone even having one yet. Suddenly everyone wanted one. And everyone knows that you want what you can't have. So suddenly you had loads and loads of people really, really wanting an invite. And the hype is real. If you get a hype for a phone that much, then there's no way it's going to sell badly.
Can I also say, I just like, if I was given the option right now of buying the OnePlus One again, like to buy it like now as a secondary phone, or even as a primary phone, you know what? Screw it. I'd have it as a primary phone, because it works so smooth to this day, and so many developers support it. And you can get like any ROM on it instantly. You can run Android P on it right now if you wanted.
So if they literally took the OnePlus One and replaced the processor and the RAM to put in an 845 and 8 gig of RAM and have it the rest the same, maybe increase the battery life, would you take that over your P20 Pro?
Oh, yes.
So if it was otherwise
just upgrading the speed of it, basically.
So yeah, 840. Well, and the cameras, because that for me the speed of it is actually okay. Like it's really smooth. The bigger issue for me currently is actually the cameras.
I suppose, especially when you compare it to a P20 Pro, nothing's gonna match up.
Especially compared to that. But no,
I guess so.
Like I'd use it side by side with my S7 Edge, and it's just smoother. Like it was just smoother than the S7.
One thing. OnePlus are just king of speed optimization. Period. They are just the kings of it. And the thing is, I would even. The only thing I would want from the newer chipsets is probably just better image processing for the camera, possibly. And that like I don't even think it even what that's the Snapdragon 801.
Yep.
That's a Snapdragon 801, and I love that original sandstone gray texture. It's so unique.
Yes.
You do not know, like no other phone has, even with the Moto Maker series, they still couldn't pull off such a nice and unique. It's like that sandstone gray texture. Oh my lord, nothing beats that. It was just so unique, and that was another thing that impressed me in how they did it, because I was like, I've never seen a material like this. I've never seen someone try a material like this. I've never seen someone use a material like this and it works. You know, that was just a magical device, you know. And they were able to use that and just bring that kind of like exclusivity to it. But it felt like an exclusivity of when you got in there, you weren't gonna break bank. It was actually good value for money. Like the base model 16GB model, if I remember right, in UK after conversion was £264, if I remember right.
That sounds about right. I'm checking it now. It was you're not right. The 16GB version was £229. The 64 was 269.
I'm thinking of the one you want. So could you imagine when 16GB was a little bit more suffice back then, right? You're getting that phone for that price.
Did it have expandable?
It doesn't. No.
Okay.
But so they pioneered the dual SIM on a cross-platform. You know?
Not only that, can I also mention that they ran flash sales? So what happened was they had the 16 and 64. No one was buying the 16 because it didn't have an expandable storage. So they basically canned it. However, they then ran flash sales and sold it for £179.
Yeah, I remember. Especially when the invites were really getting easy to get into because they needed to get rid of the stock. 100%. People were just getting it as their base developer phone just to have there.
Yeah. And then they also had the 10,000 milliamp hour battery bank that sold for 14 quid.
There we go. And these are the thinking out of the box and having a bit more imagination with how you educate your customers, you market your product to make them fans of that brand, of that product. And this is what OnePlus have done. So it's like, as much as I would criticize them for having a slightly Sony-like business model of every 6 months release a flagship phone, because it makes it hard for any person to buy a product that way, especially when it's the direct replacement and it's not a different product segment. You know, we discussed this way back before. It's
the OnePlus X is different because that was a
different product segment.
Yeah.
The Note is, the V series from LG is, they are different products in terms of segment. The Mate is a different product segment to the P series.
Yeah.
You know, you can say they're similar, but at the end of the day, if they've justified it to be a different product segment, then it's a different product segment. Then they are allowed to have their staggered 6 month, half a year release. But when it's a direct replacement, that makes it a very difficult thing to follow. But irrespective of that, the 5T got the biggest backlash of that continuous 6 month, upgrade cycle. But it sold like hotcake. It's still one of their best selling products, right? So it then proved to be the point where you can now tell that OnePlus have a very, very big fan and cult following audience where they can now spiral their product into a higher category and start building an ecosystem around that, software and hardware wise. I'm seeing that happen because the one that you're going to want to get from the OnePlus 6 will be the leaked 8GB and 256 gig model. And that will be in the Razer phone territory pricing of £700 to £750 because they want to make sure that they collect as much profit margin from how well that phone is going to sell to be able to push into other.
Cool, we've gone again.
Oh, we've lost him again.
I mean, like, I do think OnePlus are actually going to get up to that 700 price point. And I do think some other phones that were at the 700 price point in the past couple of years are going to start heading over a little bit.
Phone prices in general have been trending upwards.
Yeah, but I think if OnePlus hit the flagship price, I think they're going to get a lot of stick for it. Not because they should, because they make very good phones, and it would still be a very good phone at a reasonable price compared to the competition. However, we expect at this point them to do a cheap ass phone. So I didn't even realise Swadding was in chat.
Yeah, no, I've been chatting.
I'm usually the one that says to you, George, that there's someone in chat.
Yeah, I've been doing good. But do you remember back when the OnePlus 3 came out? Like, I remember because we were at that event. It was a really fun event, actually. That was really enjoyable because you came and joined. Like, we were there. We had some hands-on time, and then we actually bought whatever time it was and went straight into work the next day.
Yeah, no, that was a good night actually, because that phone was for your boss.
Yeah, that was for my boss.
Yeah.
He still has it as his backup. He has it as a secondary phone.
I don't blame him because they're phones that have aged well.
Aged well gracefully, more than, and it's that especially in markets like UK where officially buying a dual SIM phone, it's not a popular thing. It is still the only phone that you can officially buy from a retailer, not secondhand, but from an official retailer, and it's dual SIM unlocked. That is a great backup option to have.
Benjamin, just real quick, your video isn't around, just so you know, and you are a touch quiet.
Yeah, that's strange. Can you not see me?
No, just got your picture. There we are.
I'm a moving man. I do move.
So
JPEG.
You can buy a used OnePlus 3 64 gig for from £260 on Amazon, and I actually think that's not a bad price.
That's amazing.
You can get a used OnePlus One. I think it was for like 130, or 140. I don't know what condition, but that would actually be reasonable. 64 gig.
I wouldn't go anything less than a OnePlus 3 just because of dash charging. I just can't live
without that's true.
Charging. Yeah, that's just my minimum. If you had the choice, don't go anything less than a OnePlus 3 just because of dash charging. It is such quick charging in general, especially for the extension of removable batteries. Quick charging is a lifesaver. I could not live without quick charging. No way.
I mean, I'd never recommend a phone that's that old anyway, partially for future support. But if there was any phone that I had to say, then I think that is actually one that I could almost recommend.
On eBay,
but yeah, I think
just real quick, on eBay, I just found a OnePlus 3, 64 gig of storage, refurbished, £170.
Oh, I'll pull the trigger on that any day.
Especially if it was a second phone, that would be
amazing. 100%.
I mean, at the moment, 100%. I have a Nexus 6P as my spare phone, and that partially because the battery, it just feels so clunky and less sleek than my phone. However, I think like that would actually be all right, and there'd be times where I'm kind of like, you know what, let's get away from the S8 for a while. Let's switch phones.
100%, 100%. And that's my only recommendation of, as great as the OnePlus 2 and especially the OnePlus 1 is, just not having fast charging is such, for me,
so useful.
Having kids and having such a fast-paced lifestyle, right? My kids have broken 2 phones due to water damage that don't have IP rating.
Right.
The first time it happened, I knew that I can't ever buy a phone that doesn't have IP rating. Made the mistake, ended up getting my wife an iPhone 6S because I felt her having the headphone jack was going to be so important over waterproofing compared to the iPhone 7. We ended up getting a pair of AirPods. She loves them because they fit her well. It works well for her. It doesn't work well for me. I don't like them. to the point where when they damage, luckily there's insurance, so we claimed we're gonna get a new one. But the point of the matter is the kids damaged it due to water. So for me, when a phone doesn't have protection against the elements, it's annoying for me personally and fast charging, because there's been too many situations where there's so many devices, there's not space to charge that device. You forget to charge it the night before. Fast charging has saved me so many different times for that situation where I just can't, so nothing less than the OnePlus 3.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of situations in the past few months where I've really thanked God for the fast charging in my phone, because there's been times where I've had like 50% going to sleep, or like 35-40%, and then it's drained more than usual overnight because it's done some like app updates or something, and then I've woke up in the morning and suddenly, without realizing I was going to go out, suddenly I'm going out for several hours. I need phone charge. Stick it on charge for like 10 minutes, and that's suddenly a bunch of extra percent, which is enough to get me through whatever I'm doing. So
exactly.
Without that, it's like how did we cope before the days of fast charging?
It's true. I mean, we coped back in the day because you could get a spare battery, remove it.
Yeah.
There's nothing faster than removing a battery, putting it in, and it's fully charged. So we coped with that. Where it seems like we struggled to cope was there was a buffer space when fast charging was not readily available when the removable battery went away. That sucked. That was a very painful period. And it's only when you experience fast charging you realize that this is what we've needed. And I'm more excited for the fact that the Generation 2 version of dash charging is meant to really, really kick things up a notch. Where I meant to edit a fast charging video as well and post it on the channel. But I did one before with the OnePlus 5. Being able to get whether the screen is on or off because of the nature of how it does it.
Yeah, the fact that it does a screen on is the craziest bit.
Irrespective, whether it's on full brightness, it makes no difference to how it charges through. It's going to be the same result. In 30 minutes, you get minimum 56% battery in 30 minutes. They're going to be able to get that same result on Generation 2 of dash charging coming out, supposedly in 20 minutes. Wow. That to me is impressive, because it's based off the derivative of Oppo's charging technology, VOCC or VOOC charging, right? The problem with VOOC charging is VOOC charging still can't be done over USB Type-C.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas VOOC charging is done over the old micro USB port, but it's not your standard micro USB port. It's a proprietary micro USB port. It has extra pins and contacts in there to allow more juice and current to flow through to be able to do 100% battery in 60 minutes without damaging the battery and causing an explosion. You see, so that one is impressive, but it's kind of like behind the times because of the type of cable that they use.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to do that over USB Type-C, honestly, it's impressive on their behalf, and I'll be eager to see that when the OnePlus 6 comes out.
Can't wait. So I have let's talk about actual news.
Actual news.
Heaven only an hour late.
Yeah, heaven forbid we talk about actual news. Did either of you notice Facebook pushing their new terms of service and their new policy? Forcefully. They were really going for it. I actually have a little video I want to play. You guys won't be able to see it, unfortunately, unless you're watching the stream. Whilst going through it, I decided I'd record myself going through it. So part of this is, mostly because of GDPR. Because just having people agree to it isn't good enough. They have to agree to it knowingly. So they have to have understood what they're agreeing to. So if I pull up this, so if you're watching a stream, you'll be able to see me going through currently and updating all my things. So for those of you who aren't aware, GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation, the reason it's such a big deal is that what companies used to be able to do was say, you know, read our terms and conditions. If you agree to it, then that's good enough. The EU went, wait a second, that's actually not good enough. You need to prove that they understood it. So you couldn't say, hey, you know, we gave it to them and it was 600 pages, but it was on them to read it. They have to be able to, it has to be so that a normal person could have understood it.
Yeah.
So we've ended up in a situation where Facebook's, you know, terms and conditions are like actually very readable. And you go through and you find out all the information it has on you, and you go through and you make sure it takes your permission again. And you guys have probably noticed you're getting a bunch of emails from companies being like, action required, tell us you want to get our emails, because they have to go through and reaffirm that because of GDPR. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because I think it's one of those things where there'll be the pains of like the first setup, right? Like, you know, you log into Facebook because you want to reply to a notification or a message or whatever, and you have to...
Battery gone.
Oh, no!
It happened. It happened. I did warn you guys.
Benjamin's turned into a camera.
Shortly resume. Oh, that is actually so funny. I should be back.
Yes. Wait for it. There you
Voila!
are.
Come on. I felt like I was in a pit lane for a minute.
Yeah, just quick.
When the stop clock comes on, they did the tire change of it in 2.1 second. Wow, that was that moment there. My feeling on that is it's great. The reason why it's great is people have become so numb to terms and conditions. Mm-hmm. It becomes so numb to it, and it's equally the responsibility of the end user that is signing into that thing. But there's an impatience that has been generated from society and how we do things, right? We want things done quickly. We want things done now. We can't be asked to do anything. Really and truly, we can't be. Anything that feels like it's robbing our time away or taking us away from what we want to get to. I just want to use the thing, you know. Even if I need to read it and I don't really understand it, it's like I'm just going to skim through and just accept.
Yeah.
What this is doing is bringing realization back to the fact that it's actually not okay to be that way. You kind of do need to a large extent, understand what you're getting yourself into, right? So my initial thoughts on it, if I'm on the right page of it, it's a good thing. It's going to be a bit of a painful thing initially, but if it's going to change the mindset to how we treat terms and conditions, then it's a positive.
Yeah.
It's a positive. It's reactive. And that seems to be something that it's not always our fault. Sometimes you don't necessarily know there's a problem until something bad happens, unless someone is clever enough to preempt, you know, i.e. the Minority Report effect, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there needs to be that lesson of, you know, having a contingency there before something bad actually happens, you know. So that's my initial thoughts on it.
I think it shows how dismissive we can be of the T's and C's and how not caring we can be. When you do get things where you've just got to scroll to the bottom, and sometimes you just can't instantly scroll to the bottom. You've got to quickly flick through, like on the iPad or something, going through the T's and C's, and you get annoyed because it's like, oh, this has just taken me all of 7 seconds. And I get annoyed with that. And I occasionally do actually, on certain things, I'm aware of certain intrusions or things that can be different. And so that I will actually see if I can find those little bits in the T's and C's just to make sure. And that is 1,000 times more than most people will do. So I think forcing people to understand it more will annoy a lot of people. It will certainly be an irritant to a lot of people, but it is good because I think we've became a little too lax on it, and a lot of people have stopped caring and a lot of people don't realise why they should care. And actually, it's a bit of a extreme scenario, and slightly not so much Facebook's fault, but other humans' fault. I was actually speaking to someone yesterday about fake advertisement,
Right.
and when people actually steal people's photos from it. Someone was actually telling me they've got a friend that some porn sites and some dating websites actually stole her photo from her Facebook and started using it on advertisements, and now she struggles getting a job because people have
watched porn.
Yeah, but like, they can image search on Google and find it. People like customers or people in the companies have just stumbled upon it. Yes, stumbled upon it completely.
Yeah. No. They were using Facebook. It was an injected ad.
All she needs is one customer to recognise her, and then her boss to realise why they've recognised her, and suddenly she's getting fired because they do not want that. And that's not so much an issue with Facebook T's and C's, but it's the issue of I'm putting myself on the internet. I don't care who sees, and not realising what the dangers are of certain people having access to this information and this imagery about you.
On a way more minor note, but sticking to the same subject, the Snappy Tech, the fake Snappy Tech channel still exists. So if you haven't reported it, please do. I'd highly appreciate that. I'm not sure if I know that Paul watched videos. Benjamin, I'm not sure if you did. They were hilarious. On a serious note. I obviously went through and disliked them and reported everything.
If you search Snappy Tech, it's the first thing that comes up is our channel. It's the 7th thing.
It's quite some way down.
But at the same point, it's still in the top 10.
Yes, yeah, because YouTube prioritizes channels. So in fact, it's not like second. It's actually quite surprising. But yeah, 8 subscribers, 2 videos. This is them. Please do the reporty thing. I'd highly appreciate it.
Is that them with the green flower?
Yeah, that's one. It is like it's some Indian guy. So he starts off with like, "Hello, this is Snappy Tech," and then like goes into whatever language. I believe it's Punjabi.
Ultimate troll level.
Oh, it is hilarious. It is like when I was first watching it, I thought it was a joke. Like I started watching, me like, what the hell is going on? And the intro. Hang on, I shouldn't be giving this guy promotion. But hey, it's the world we live in. Like, this intro is priceless. And then, like, the intro is 18 by 9, but the video itself is 16 by 9, but the video itself is 9 by 16. Because it's vertical video. Like, it's got the Made with KineMaster logo in the top right, which you can't see because the overlay's in the way. Hang on, let me see if I can drop the overlay.
The box on box life. Yeah, it's been quite annoying seeing stuff like that. It's funny, but at the same time, it's been quite annoying seeing stuff like that because, I just noticed how many, like, ever since I started doing camera comparisons and just being able to just use some of the contacts that I have to get access to, the S9 early, which really helped the channel grow and get good views in and whatnot. I did not realize how many audiences fall for these fake camera comparison channels on YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous, and you're thinking, okay, you can report them and everything, but it's just within that, it taught me how to be credible in what I'm doing in terms of presentation.
Yeah.
Because there were I don't know about rightfully so, but yeah, it can seem quite unusual that a smaller creator gets access to maybe a bigger phone and is able to produce content that maybe they were expecting from someone else, right? And you would get a couple of trolls that would be like, "Oh, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake." And I'm like, okay, let's have a constructive discussion about why you think what I'm producing is fake.
Yeah,
just
so I can prove that it's real.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, but you can't get it early. No. Take that out of the equation. I've shown you the product. You can see who I am. right? I've showcased it. I've shown you the settings. I've probably shown you more than what some other other people would do if they're ever doing such a video, just so that your mind is settled that this is as legit as it comes. They're like, oh, that's true. I'm like, yeah, my integrity matters a lot more than a channel that would somehow conveniently upload a camera comparison the minute the phone was announced, not the hour, the minute the phone was announced. There's a camera comparison that is 2.5 minutes long. Very
slightly
convenient,
suspicious.
Right? Yeah, very convenient. But it's just like you see people commenting, wow, this phone's better. I'm like, really? This actually happens. This is like ultimate troll level, and it's just, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Can I? And I hate to circle back to this, but really quickly, I'm still looking at this YouTube channel. Two things. First of all, it's using the wrong logo, so they're actually using the out of date logo. So, like, if you scroll up, you'll see the current logo is actually slightly different. That's not the key point. The key point, I've just noticed its description. Because I'll be completely honest, Snappy Tech, we need to update ours. However, theirs is so great. It is, and I'm quoting here, basically this channel provides you the knowledge of smartphones and electronic gadgets. Oh,
Crazy.
man.
By the way, George, a minute ago, whilst Ben was talking, I was reporting the channel.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've reported the channel just to let you know.
Yeah, I think a couple of people said on Twitter they'd reported it as well. The fact it's still around is actually quite surprising to me. I didn't even hear anything back because I reported like 2 weeks ago now, 2-3 weeks ago, and
It's quite obvious who's impersonating who as well. I mean,
Yeah,
we've been around for a lot longer.
it's not like I have like one video, right? Where I can,
Yeah.
and it's not even that. Like they went because if it was just the name, I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, it's a coincidence, right? Maybe they didn't do any research. Like, you know, I've made like a name for something and not done any research into if someone else already has it, right? Because it happened with Simone Giertz. She did it like a couple of weeks. Actually, it would have been like a month ago now, where she made she was going to start a series called Technical Difficulties, where it would be like her making robots that didn't suck. But you know, and she wasn't aware of it, but Tom Scott has a video series called Technical Difficulties, right? So, you know, that wasn't malicious. It was just a coincidence, and sometimes it happens. The fact they went out of their way to take my logo was the moment where I was like, okay, cool, this person's copying me.
Fun fact, Technical Difficulties isn't the series, it's the name of what they call the group.
Yes, I was close enough, Paul, for God's sake.
George, when you're wrong, it's my duty to pull you up on it.
To be a smart ass about it.
That's it.
Also, citation needed, if you haven't seen it, is hilarious. Highly suggest it.
Yes. And it's very interesting as well.
Yes.
I actually have it, because it's 7 seasons they've done of it. I have it all on my Plex server. And every now and then I'll just watch an episode. And
Tom Scott is great.
You know, to answer the original thing about, you know, just making better awareness with, you know, terms and conditions and, you know, just what you're signing into and stuff. I just think it's sometimes it's so easy to blame Facebook. And I mean, don't get me wrong, bloody hell, the way they are draining our data, it can't be excused, right? Especially with the whole Cambridge Analytica with the data manipulation and the target. It's not. We don't need to make excuses for Facebook. We're not here to make excuses for them. They need to be accountable. I think as imperfect as Mark Zuckerberg is, I commend him for being brave enough to stand in front of Congress, even if Congress themselves don't necessarily know what they're questioning as well as they should do. Being brave enough to put himself in that position to do that is commendable to him, you know, in some way, in a weird way for the situation or whatnot. But away from not making excuses for that, I just think it will be better for us to kind of like be educated to slow down and take it in properly. You know, yes, it's up to the bigger corporations to make it easier to absorb that, definitely. But I think it's a two-way street where we need to get into the habit of kind of knowing what we're signing ourselves into more to say yes or no, you know, and not feel like it's a complete yes. I just want to get on with it. And you don't know the repercussions that could potentially come after, whether you're an enemy of the state or not, you know?
See, I like the some sites will actually give you a summary. They'll say here, look, there is a full T's and C's. Here is the summary.
Yes.
The main rights you're handing to them.
Yeah.
And in those situations, I do flick through it, and usually it's all as expected. However, I do appreciate the companies that are transparent enough to do that, because we do just seem to automatically click if we see, oh, you click here for T's and C's, we're like, no, just tick and accept. And I'm someone that's terrible for this. I actually find
not just you. Not just you, mate.
On Twitch, when you go onto a channel in a browser for the first time, if it's set as mature, you have to click it again, even if you've been to that channel before on separate browsers and all that. And I actually sometimes say to people now, wait, your channel is set to mature audiences, because I just automatically click it without even realizing. Sometimes I do look back and it's like, oh yeah, I clicked that. It didn't even click. So,
Yeah.
I will pimp terms of service didn't read. So if there's a website, this is primarily for large websites. If you go to tosdr.org, so terms of service didn't read .org, they actually have summaries of terms of services. So if you like scroll down a little, they actually rate the terms of services of companies and give you the highlights.
Nice.
So for example, if we like scroll down a bit, 500 pixels or 500 px have authorship of your stuff. They can terminate your account whenever they want. When you agree to their terms of service, you waive your legal actions. If you go to something like DuckDuckGo, they have no tracking, which is good. They have things like, I forget, there was one which just had like terrible terms of service. I forget who it was. But yeah, it's
Wikipedia have 4 thumbs up on their terms of service. Amazon have 4 thumbs down.
And then, you know, things like the Apple iCloud, they can delete any of your data at any time and without notice. This was the really terrifying one. The most terrifying is things like Evernote. You cannot delete your account. That's in their terms of service. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, now that you've made it, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, Bitly, you cannot delete your account. RuneScape, you cannot delete your account. World of Warcraft, you cannot delete.
I want to say...
Zeus, there's quite a few, actually.
Wait, really quickly. Gravatar has it, like, even scared... Like, you cannot delete your account is, like, it sounds okay. And I think I made this joke when we were last on this site. I think it was with... I forget who it was with. It might have been Eric Rosenberg when I was last on this website. But most of them say you cannot delete your account. Gravatar specifically says, and this sounds pretty evil dictatory, that you have no right to leave the service.
Wow. There's TwitPic here. TwitPic takes credit for your content. It's like, okay, a few other places do that. Then there's your content is for TwitPic and their partners, reduction of legal period for cause for any action, blah, blah, blah. But the end one is deleted images are not really deleted. And both glad they put that and admit to that. However, also admitting to it is so terrible.
Yeah, it'd be way better if they just deleted the images.
Yeah. But...
And then things like couch surfing may retain your data after deactivation for, and I quote, legitimate business purposes. What are legitimate business purposes?
What does that refer to?
What?
And this is actually it's really enlightening. That's the best way I can actually put it. This is really it really sheds light on, you know, how much do people know what they're giving up using these products. using these services. How much do they really know? How much do they really know? You know, it's there is an element of responsibility on us as the end user to think enough, and take that bit more time, because it's really not that much time, but it just feels so, you feel so engrossed in the whole antisocial social club generation, right? Where you feel like you need to be as quickly in there as possible or you're missing out. But are you really? Do you get it?
Yeah, and I think that's the person we forget to blame, is ourselves.
Yeah.
Because, the companies do have a responsibility to us, the people that they're serving, their customers, the people whose data they have control of. They do have a responsibility to us, but we do have a responsibility to ourselves to understand what we're agreeing to. Because once we say yes to something, then it's too late. They have suddenly they're collecting information on you, and especially from a legal aspect. Yes, there are new rules like the recent EU rule that George was saying about. However, from a legal aspect, we have agreed to it all. We cannot. I mean, they're
not necessarily protected, as in there's no accountability, but like what you mean in terms of the legal principle, based on legal principle. Yeah.
And even if you could sue them and get money out of them in a court of law, it's certainly not as easy as it otherwise could be. When companies do things that they don't admit to and they don't get you to agree to, that's when they're 100% in the blame. However, when we are agreeing to things out of our own negligence, then really we can't really point too many fingers at companies until we blame ourselves.
Nope. So this is it's enlightening, and I think it's in a good, if it's going to force the percentage, and especially for, I'm thinking about my kids where they're 4 and 2, right? If I can think, and every time I told this to people, it's such a shock to the system that 10 years ago WhatsApp did not exist. Right? In the next 10 years, we are going into the third decade of the new millennium. 2020 is the third decade of the new millennium. That generation of, people coming in are going to have earlier exposure and access to these things compared to when we did. And we're still of a younger generation still. The millennials, as they like to call it, however much I hate that word. But how much more them, in terms of the level of access that they're going to have to electronics, and not just electronics, but it's electronics to a very powerful connected world. We didn't have,
the people just like 5, 10 years younger than us. Me and George 20, and the people like 10 years younger than us that have access to iPads and have done for a few years now, and the amount of things they have access to, and even, a lot of parents will put parental controls, but a lot of them won't as well. And suddenly, the parents, like when they start getting loads of charges to them, they kind of do have themselves to blame for not doing the limitations on them, for not educating their children. Because the internet can be an amazing place. I like the fact that I can just turn my light off now by saying, Alexa, turn the office light off. Luckily she didn't pick me up for that, and now George is gonna have to bleed again.
Yes, I am. Don't worry, I've already spammed this point with markers already.
However, it's scary that this amazing thing that we use so much things it can do to us, against us.
That level of connected access is such a game changer for the next generation, that if it doesn't 100% affect our behaviors, because we're stubborn human beings that are stuck in their ways, if they can be the next generation of human beings that are stubborn and stuck in their ways, then at least it can be for the right behavioral behaviors. Sorry, you know. And if this can nurture the correct behaviors of taking time to appreciate what you're getting into, right, and having a bit more patience, right, it's a good thing. It's a start. And that's what I'm looking at more, because if we feel 10 years has gone a lot quicker than we expected it to, trust me, the next 10 years is going to be coming even quicker. It's going to be a bigger slap in the face than what people will budget for themselves for, you know. So it's enlightening, and it's something to consider and think about.
I have a question to ask you, Benjamin, because I believe you have 2 daughters, right?
2 boys.
Oh, 2 boys. Sorry. Oh no, that's Greg. Okay. Let's try it again. So, I believe you have 2 boys, right?
Yeah.
What age do you let them have their own phone? At what age do they come to you and go, Daddy, I want a phone, and you go, sure? And how do you handle that?
From when now, the way the world is, from when they can walk to school by themselves, take themselves to school, and come home by themselves, that's when they need to have a phone. Right. Unfortunately, because from them they are in a situation where there is a I call it the dead zone. There's a dead zone where you have no form of monitoring on them.
Yeah.
Right. That period of time where you take them to school, they are in school, you pick them up, they are still not on their own. There's a level of access from an external person that is able to contact you without them having to do anything. But the minute that room is gone, there is a time period in the dead zone where there's no third party external person that can contact them for you on their behalf, right? And for some people, it might be earlier. Some kids might be able to get to school by themselves at the age of 8 when they're in year 4, or at the age of 9 when they're in year 5. Whatever it is, unfortunately, to me, as a minimum requirement, that needs to be the earliest point where they need to have their own phone. Now, what phone you give them, that's a different question.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do you? Because in my head, because I think it's no secret. I've probably mentioned it in a couple of videos. Definitely on the Snappy Talk channel, probably on here as well. It's been mentioned at least in passing. That, you know, not right now, obviously, because I'm 20, but, you know, call it 10 years from now, I'd love to have kids. And you know, I've been thinking about, you know, how I'd handle it, right? Because you see, you know, 8-year-olds running around with like iPhone 10s. And I'm just like, no, that's the worst kind of parenting. You know, I would call, you know, if we're hypothetically giving a child a phone at 10 years old, like how I see it is, you know, every year you add £50 to their phone fund, right? So if you get them a £100 phone on a 2-year contract, then 2 years from now, when you do a new phone, they can now have a £200 phone, right? You have like you scale up. You don't start off with an iPhone 10.
Yeah, I think partially the techie in me is kind of like, my kid is not having a phone as good as mine.
Yeah, no, that is the tough conversation, and that is the thing. That is the line that is not being crossed, and it's not being handled well at the minute. That it's not people are saying, oh, it's, you know, kids are, and I said, no, it's a different generation. So the kind of access and the kind of demographic and the kind of world that we live in, they need to have that access come a certain point, right? And it may seem earlier than usual, but unfortunately, it's just the world that we live in, right? It's a great world that we live in, but it's a crazy world nonetheless, right? So point of contact is important, but the type of device that they have and the level of exposure, because the difference to when I had my first phone, right, is as good and as much fun I could have was playing Snake and buying my own ringtones. Yeah, that's as connected as I got. That is as connected as I got, period. I wasn't going to be getting any more connected on that. My imagination could not run into any form of a rabbit hole. That rabbit hole was Snake. Right? It's different now.
Yeah.
Right? the rabbit hole that they can run into, it is so immense that the device that you give them is the real deciding factor right here. You see, I also think manufacturers are not helping, because the bottom end phones are still very connected.
Yeah. You have to go out of your way to get like a phone that isn't a smartphone.
Exactly. The bottom. This is where the problem is right now. So then it almost makes it to seem like you as a parent buying a product, it may seem like bad parenting. And I'm speaking from, I'm a parent myself. You know, I'm projecting that same thing, right? It then seems like bad parenting. But what they've done is they've created kind of like a ladder from how they have dealt with deals with their partners, such as, you know, third-party retailers, networks, and how they price their products in such a way where you psychologically feel like, one, I can't buy a lower end phone because it doesn't exist to buy, really. Two, they've made them so rubbish that they actually it becomes a liability than actually a product that is worth giving and using, right? And then on top of that, it then makes you psychologically spend more on the better product that isn't going to have any real fail safes, if you want to put there, any guard safes in there from the manufacturer in terms of a software level to protect children from not having that kind of connected access. That's where the problem is that I have at the moment. You see.
So for context, I'm currently on the Carphone Warehouse website, right? Mm-hmm. They have 7 phones that are under £50, and they're all like, you know, generic brick phones. 2 of them are the Nokia 3310, frankly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2 of them are flip phones, and then the last 3 are 2 of them are Nokia's, one's an Alcatel. So you can either spend $49.99 on a Nokia 3310, or you can spend $54.99 on an iMo Q2, which is essentially like a bargain smartphone.
Yeah.
And that would probably be like my kid's first smartphone, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like a phone like that.
Yeah, or the ZT Blade A110, which is 60 quid, right? You look at this, like the Moto C is £80. Like you can't get much cheaper than a 50 quid phone.
Yeah.
To be honest, even if I was lucky enough that when I have kids, I'm a millionaire, we live in a mansion, I drive Ferraris, Aston Martins, whatever, my kids still aren't getting a first phone that is worth more than £100.
Oh yeah, no,
it isn't going to happen. Even if the phone when it was bought was worth more than £100 and it's used, maybe that's the best they're going to get. However, there's no way I'm doing that, because like I mean, I wouldn't say I've turned out well. However, my
nor would anyone else, frankly.
Yeah, my parents were pretty adamant about not giving me more than my brother had, and my brother didn't get a lot too. Like, of course, with how fast tech's grown in my lifetime, there was more of an access to me. So I did really want a smartphone sooner and all that, but they were always like, no, we're not giving you a £500 phone. We're not getting you an iPhone. Or you will start off with an £80 phone. I think it was a Symbian OS Nokia phone. And that was my first smartphone, the first new phone that I had. And I think it's important for parents to give a little bit of scaling and not spoil them, because kids these days, some aren't spoiled, some can be lovely kids, but some are so spoiled because the parents. So when the kids go, "Oh, mummy, my best friend's got the iPhone 10. I want the," and they just give in because they're like, "Oh, we don't want our kids to get bullied for what they've not got," and in the end of the day, it makes them not as good people for it. And they don't appreciate their phones.
And that is the real factor there. I think as a general guideline, every child, I think, and I say this, and I don't say this like to feel shameful about it. The minute your child is in a scenario where there isn't a third party or someone as a third person that can act on their behalf as a point of communication, they need to have their own mobile device. It's a safety measure.
Yeah.
And whoever doesn't do that, you're putting your child in danger, because anything can happen at any given time. This is not wishing bad on anyone, but if you as a parent do not put that in place because you feel like they shouldn't have a phone, then you're not being safe. You need to be able to have point of contact. Even if you trust them and you're not micromanaging their movements, they need to have a stream of being able to contact you or whoever if they're in a position, so that is every parent's responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
Whether the child is, like I said, 8, 9, the minute they are in a regular scenario where they are by themselves and they don't have that means of contact, they need to have it. But the device that you give them, especially in such a heavily connected world, that's a discussion that really needs to be hammered home.
And I've heard parents justify giving their child an iPhone, even or like ones that were sort of a year old or even brand new ones, justify that by saying my child needs to be able to contact me or whatever. And yes, I understand the need to contact you, but not with an iPhone.
No.
Because that, if nothing else, an iPhone is very expensive to fix when they inevitably don't take care of it and drop it and crack the screen. It's cheaper to buy a £50 phone and let them have that for even a year. And then hopefully they might take care of their phones and you won't be spending lots and lots of money on a screen replacement.
And it's a shame. It's a shame, right? Because I think the form factor of these newer phones gives a level of access and usability that you can't you get more from the older form factor phones, right? But I just feel like with how much access they have to making sure that software can be the deciding factor of how you interact with the phone, I still think they need to do a better job to have a mode that gives you that level of access, as in having a proper QWERTY keyboard, right? Being able to do all those simple things a lot easier and better. But having a mode or having restrictive access to certain parts of the software that isn't going to permit that unnecessary rabbit hole trickle.
You know what I'll equate it to? And this will either hit you and you'll go, oh my God, yes, or you'll go, what the hell are you on about, George? But bear with me here. The ultra power saving mode on the Samsung phones.
Yes.
Like, because when you
some
put
of
it
the
into
Samsung tablets have kids mode as well.
Because when you put it in ultra power saving mode on the Samsung phones, it shuts off anything that isn't phone calls or text messages. Or I think you can have like the internet browser as well as like an optional shortcut. But like it shuts off anything that refreshes in the background, and it works as essentially just a phone. That's what you need, a phone that has that permanently, in essence.
Exactly.
And I remember on my LG G2, there was the guest mode on there. The part of it was you can give your phone to someone and they can only have access to what you want them to access.
Yes. Yes.
But the part of it's a case of now you can give your phone to a kid, a phone that won't easily be broken as well, because the G2 was quite like if you dropped it or threw it at a wall, it's not going to break that easily, and I definitely proved that once by accident. But yeah, you can give that phone. Yeah, it was in my duvet cover. I flinged up my duvet cover, wondering where's my phone. It flew at the wall. But you can set, okay, my kid wants to play games on my phone. These are the games that it's okay for them to play. Here, have my phone. You can now play these games, but you can't start going on the internet. You can't start going on these games that you have to pay for. You can't start going on these betting apps or whatever it's. And I think that is something that is needed.
It's needed. Then it will make the fact that them having these more expensive looking phones not such a problem, because you know that the end user experience is down to software access. right? Software access level, whether it's the type of apps that they can download, the administrator, i.e. you, the parent, gets a notification about it, or get some, something where that access to that rabbit hole exposure is going to be severely controlled well, where those kind of phones being given to them, it's not a problem. That's what really needs to be worked on. That's what really needs to be marketed, and that's what needs to be really well educated on to make. And again, if it's not for, how can I put it, our generation, right? It's mainly for the next coming in, so that behavioral change happens and it trickles down forward into the next decade and the next decade, right? Because it's just going to keep happening a lot quicker than what people will see. And what you're exactly saying is, it's going to bring behaviors in the next generation in not, one, being appreciative of what situation they're in, and two, just being ungrateful sods.
Yeah.
There's that too.
This is actually something that I occasionally think of, about things that have happened in my life, things that my parents have grown me up doing.
Yes.
Yeah. They like things that have made me a good person, made me an appreciative person.
I mean, you say good person, Paul. Frankly, some of us would like to beg to differ.
Better than I could have turned out. I could have turned out like you. So,
touche.
But there are things that I thought that so many parents, just because of how society's changed, so many parents aren't going to do that with the next like kids coming in like a decade or so. It's going to be so different for them, and it's not necessarily going to be better, just by how much everything's going to change. Like, so some of the laziness in our generation for, I can't be asked to cook this, just order a takeaway, and it's probably going to sound really weird, but like, it's really nice going to my nan's, and when she used to cook us a roast dinner or whatever. And then there's kids that are growing up now that are probably just going to stick to ready meals and takeaways for their entire lives, just because they've not had to know anything else.
And there lies where that one in particular. Honestly, that one in particular, I really, really, really think manufacturers need to really spend that time to market and educate that element of it much, much better. Much, much better. I think there's only so much that, yes, in terms of parenting, they can put it down to and stuff. But you see, I challenge the bigger manufacturers, especially. Because I think Apple doesn't do that well at all, in my opinion. I think they've been a lot better, especially when it comes to their in-app purchases, because they've been stung by that big time in terms of caught and going to it and stuff. But I think the whole software experience itself, I think they still need to do a much better job. Samsung does that job, but
yeah, there is partially the argument to be made though, that anyone that can't be trusted using an iPhone on their own shouldn't be using an iPhone on their own, or shouldn't be old enough to have their own, or whatever. Which is a fair argument. I mean, but yeah.
So I hate to cut this conversation short, but we're about to hit 2 hours. Yeah. I think one of Benjamin's...
Everyone's a bed here as well.
Yeah. Apparently everyone is driving past Paul's window right now.
Yeah.
We've lost Benjamin again. So while we wait to get Benjamin back, Paul, what have you been up to? Where can people find you?
Okay, so if you would like to see more of my completely average at best face, please go to snpy.tech/Paul. On there you will find a link to my Twitter, on which I post things, I interact with people if you want to speak to me, or there's also a link to my Twitch, I haven't streamed in a few weeks, but hopefully that will change and I'll get back to streaming as long as this weather starts to behave itself so it's cool enough to stream.
Yes, we did some streaming on Wednesday. Well, I did
Yeah.
the streaming, but you were playing with me. And that was
I quite
fun. We did some
often
Rocket
host
League.
good streamers, so that's still a reason to go over there.
You're yet to host one of mine. Just putting that
I
out
did
there.
say good, right?
Oh, you're a terrible person.
Yeah, and we've established this.
Yeah, so go to that. There's a link in the description of this video. Oh, that's a lie, but there will be once you get around to watching it. There's also... Yes, Benjamin is back.
Welcome back.
Awesome. The link is also in the show notes. So, Benjamin, now that you're back, tell everyone where they can find you. Where do they go?
Oh, yes, definitely. So very, very active on Twitter. Lover of Tech BA, all as one word. And definitely www.youtube.com/lover of tech. Come over to the YouTube channel, subscribe. Lots of tech reviews, as many tech reviews I can get access to. And also the new live stream show that has started. As much as we were talking about T's and C's, is also known as the Tech and Chill Show, Unplugged. Much more, chilled, less structured, but kind of feeding off people's thoughts and questions, and also anything that I've come across during the week that I would like to talk about. So I think you guys should look forward to a double live stream on each other's channel where the Snappy Tech meets the Tech and Chill Show. Let's make that happen. So
And
we'll work out the kinks and make that happen.
Absolutely. And even outside of that, if you go to there, and you probably will see me in chat. So do check that out anyway if you want to interact. That's the way to do it. Thank you to both of you for joining us. If you enjoyed this podcast, then you know what to do. Give it a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to support us, even better still, go to snpy.tech/Patreon for a monthly recurring subscription of greatness. And if it's more of a one-off thing, if you want to buy us a cup of coffee, you can go to snpy.tech/coffee, spelled KOFI. Links are in the description or the show notes as always. Please do that. However,
video thing.
yeah, it's also on the bottom of the video thing. It's been there all this time. So if you haven't been there by now, God's sake, guys, just do it, please, for me.
Do it.
I make zero YouTube ad revenue on these. Please, just please. So go check that out.
Awesome.
We will see you next week when we're live at 8 p.m. British summertime. But until then, thank you for joining us.